Good morning. This is actually the first video I've ever made, but I thought instead of typing everything up and asking everybody to read, it might be better if it was just kind of a video on maybe how to get started in keto, because I know there's several people on our page, Healthiness is Happiness, that maybe have just now hearing about it, maybe heard all kinds of different things. There's a lot of misinformation out there about keto and really kind of just how to get started. So I thought I would start with the science, and yes, I'm reading some notes a little bit, but that's just to help keep me from rambling. The science behind keto is that you really want to eat low carbs, moderate protein, and higher fat. And I know that sounds so crazy, and I'll kind of get to that as I keep talking, but you do want to have your fats be what you eat the most out of for your entire day. Most of us are addicted to sugar, which causes inflammation, which leads to so many different diseases, like I think of high blood pressure, heart disease, RA, arthritis, diabetes. So cutting out sugar just seems to be, at least for me, probably the most common sense thing to do. The hardest thing to grasp is that you do have to eat the high fats, and I'll keep saying that, but you do have to eat the high fats. Fats burn fats. But we do want to eliminate all the sugar that we do eat. Keto retrains our bodies to actually burn our own body fat for energy, opposed to eating sugars or too many bad carbs, which actually causes a blood sugar spike in our bodies. And then your body fat is stored and you use the carb. Your body actually burns the carbs for energy. So we definitely want to stay away from any of the sugars, any of the higher carbs. We generally do get most of our carbs, and I say most because of course I still want to have a piece of chocolate or something, but most of our carbs do come from vegetables. So how do you start? You just start. You read the labels. I'll post that list of the bad sugars that food companies can put in the ingredients, and it can still say sugar-free. That's where most of my sabotaging when I first started keto came from, is I was eating different things that I thought were good for me, but actually weren't. So again, you just want to remember fats burn fats. So if you just start reducing and not having, maybe just count your net carbs for the day and not going over 20. And when you think about it, add, something with fat into whatever your meal plan is. You don't have to have strictly just a keto meal plan. My husband doesn't eat keto. He loves the way I cook. I'm still working on him. If anybody knows him, he's going to be a tough person to get to drop all the foods that he loves. But then I just make something starchy for him. So it's actually quite easy if you have kids that don't want to do it, or sometimes, they don't even realize that they're actually eating a keto meal because it's just that good. Like, I can add bacon to anything, and my husband's like, holy smokes, that's fantastic. My experiences are I lost weight right away. I didn't know how to look for those hidden sugars that cause a spike in our blood sugar in our bodies that actually stores fat. So I lost it right away. Of course, if you give up sugar right away, you're going to lose weight, like you've given up sugar. But there's different versions of keto. Some keto is actually to gain weight. People that are very athletic tend to bump up protein because they're expelling that much energy out. But unless you are training to be an athlete, you really want to have higher fats. And I'm going to say most of us, even as much as you may exercise, I personally haven't at all on my journey yet. But even if you do, it's not your full-time job. So if it's not your full-time job, you should be eating more fats than protein. And your calories still count. So getting used to keto and getting yourself in ketosis, that's another misconception. People think they can eat butter, cheese, bacon all day, and you can't do that. You're still going to end up gaining weight. So calories definitely still count. But again, to go back to the question of where do we start, we just start by giving up the sugar and watching, just counting your carbs. You know, your macros, which everybody, I was so confused. I'm like, what the heck is a macro? A macro is just setting a limit of carbs, protein, and fat that you eat every day. So that's just your macro. So when we say 20 carbs a day, that's 20% of the food that you eat. 70% should be fats. So that means out of all of your foods, 70% should be fats. 20% should be proteins, and 5% should be your carbs. And you should never have more than 20. Again, everybody's different. I shouldn't say you should never have more than 20. Everybody has different health issues. Always talk to a doctor if you have something like that. I know some people have shared with me, maybe different diseases or syndromes or just whatever health issues they have. If you have something like that, I'd absolutely be talking to a doctor, to somebody else that shares your experiences. Mine was just, I had high blood pressure. And after I was doing keto properly, I went and had my blood work and all that done again. Everything looks good. My blood pressure went from 146/80 to 126/80. And yes, from eating, fat the most, carbs the least. The other thing I would say to make sure you have on hand, and I know some people are like, I just cannot grasp the fact of drinking pickle juice, but pickle juice has potassium and sodium in it. So I still, to this day, will drink like a shot just right out of my pickle jar. It's got to be dill, not sweet. And yes, look at your pickle label, because even some dill does have some sort of sugar or form of sugar substitute in there that's not good for us. But I do just drink a shot of it, sometimes just at night, sometimes in the morning. I drink bone broth every day, or try to remember. Thank you, Steph, for reminding me last night with your post. That's part of the reason I love being part of a group, because we help hold each other accountable and just remind ourselves of different things that we should or shouldn't do. But it's that sodium, it's our electrolytes that get thrown off from the keto flu. So if you can't do pickles, and I know some people can't, I do the broth, or I would just take some water and some pink Himalayan salt and put it in there. What I did find is that just buying electrolyte water was not enough. I had to add something else. And it could be a night and day difference of, just within like half hour to an hour, all of a sudden you just do start to feel good. The keto flu is real. The struggle is most definitely real. And I have found, and in some of my other keto groups and the research I found, doing any one of those three can make a huge, huge difference. Let me see what else I have. Oh, also give your body time to heal. You're healing it from the inside first. That inflammation does not go away overnight. We didn't start just eating sugar in a day, so it doesn't go away in a day. This is where a keto stall can come in, or you could be like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, because the scale isn't moving. I highly suggest measuring yourself. Inches can fall off in keto so much faster than your scale can go down. I know that seems crazy, and I know it can be frustrating. If you're somebody that gets frustrated getting on the scale, get the tape measure out and do that every week. Some people's scale can move like crazy. Like 1 month I lost 21 pounds. 1 month I lost 4. So, it just really, really depends on each individual person. But just know, even if you don't see that scale moving, that you're healing your body and moving to a healthier life by giving up those sugars and the carbs. When you're ready to set your macros, I know Lance, who's on the group, and myself are both willing to help set your macros. I do also find, this was probably one of the best things, non-scale victories that I found is, people that know me know I'm a teacher, so right now I'm not working. When my life is more structured, I tend to track more. But the last couple weeks, I hadn't really tracked, and so I was kind of afraid to get on the scale. But because I was still eating keto, I didn't gain anything. Like maybe I gained a pound one day, and then I'd lose 2 pounds. But either way, Like, how awesome. I mean, I'm nowhere near a maintenance part of my life, part of my journey, but how awesome that I can actually just eat keto and not worry about gaining back weight. Because it really does, when you watch your macros, it really does teach you to eat when you're hungry. You know, you've got to get away from the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, I hear so many people say, but what do I have for breakfast? If you're hungry, you eat breakfast. If you're not, you don't. And I'm not saying go all day. I don't believe in huge long-term fastings. There's some days I eat one meal a day. There's some days I eat four. It just, you really start to know when your body needs it and when it's maybe emotional eating or just habitual eating, if that's when you do it. So keto is a really good way to get to know yourself and your body and how that works. But I love that when I track, I lose. Like the macros, the science, and I'm the science teacher, the science doesn't lie. It absolutely, absolutely works. So I want to ask a favor of you guys. If you found this helpful, please put an emoji or write a comment. If you have a question, please write a comment. I think the next thing I'm going to do is actually buy a selfie stick. I hope this actually turns out pretty good. And I didn't mean for it to go very long, but any questions, any info to share, you know, that's what the group, that's why I created our Healthiness is Happiness group. I feel like everybody's a lifelong learner. Nobody ever knows everything. Everybody tends to have something that they're a specialty at. So I'd love to learn from you guys as much as me sharing information. Healthiness is happiness, and I hope you have a wonderful day.